Welcome to the second episode of First Impressions, a podcast where we talk about our lives as Asian Australians and other cross-cultural topics. I'm Clement, and with me is my friend Nathan.
How are you going?
Yeah, doing alright, man. Not
Yeah.
too bad, not too bad.
That's
I think
good.
after our first one, I feel a lot more easy about this one, you know.
I know what you mean. Despite the fact that we have less prepared, not gonna lie, I feel like we're more prepared.
Hey, sometimes, you don't prepare for something and something good happens.
That's very. I don't.
Like
have
when
an
you
example.
make it jelly and it turns into custard.
That's a terrible example. Jelly should not be turning into custard.
What if your custard turned into eggnog?
I like that.
I
do
know,
like
I know you
eggnog.
like eggnog.
Freaking
I remember
love
last year when
eggnog.
we went shopping, you were like, "Hey, let me get the brandy," and I was like, "All right, just do that. Whatever. I don't know what this shit is about. This is a really white people thing."
I just remember the eggnog spilling all over my freaking hand, and I had to go buy a new
Oh
one.
yeah, we put it in the bag, and
And it just went into your costume, your pirate
Because I
costume.
bought a pirate costume the same day. We put it in the same bag because I think we didn't want to buy a bag or something.
No, we're in Canberra. We don't get plastic bags for free here.
Yep, 15 cents at Coles.
Yeah, and we're too cheap for that. So we just decided to bag pull.
To bag pull.
Yeah, it's like carpooling,
I like that.
but with bags.
You should trademark that.
I'm not going to. I don't think it would go very well. I don't want to be associated with it, to be honest.
Fair enough. Either way, I just remember eggnog all over my pirate hat, and I was.
It wasn't all over. It was like just all
Yeah,
over
but,
one
like,
of them.
It may as well have been all over. Like you know eggnog. You can smell it, and it's just the odor smashes you in the face, ish.
So what are we talking about today, Clement?
So today I thought we'd talk about we'd go to the main sort of idea behind this podcast, which is Asian Australians. That's what we are. That's what you are. That's what I am. So we are that.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. So I thought I did a little bit of research,
Yeah,
and by a little bit I mean about like half an hour on Wikipedia.
that's like 29 minutes more than I did.
Yeah. Well, what?
I did like a whole minute's worth. I went
Okay.
on like some. Anyway, just you.
Good
do
on you,
this.
man. So, yes, a little bit of background information. So the first really big migration of Asians into Australia was during the gold rush time. That's between the 1850s and 60s in Victoria, Australia. So the people there, they were moving from a very declining situation, and this was mainly Chinese migrants. They were moving from like a declining situation. China was falling into civil unrest. It was the end of the Qing dynasty. There was rebellion, and just the whole opium trade. It just made things very negative for society. So a lot of Chinese migrants, they came over here to dig for gold, and obviously there was going to be some, I guess you could say, backlash to that.
Backlash in terms of like.
Against like so there were already European settlements here, also working at the gold mines. They came before the Chinese migrants did, and they were met like when the Chinese migrants they got here, they took 3 months on a boat to get here. Most of them came from the Canton region of China. They took a boat for 3 fucking months. Like, could you imagine being on a boat for 3 months?
No, I actually was on a cruise for about a week, and that was enough. And that was a luxury cruise.
Nathan, that's nothing compared. You're not okay. Anyways, they came on a boat, came to Melbourne, and then they went up into Bendigo, which is where all the gold rush kind of stuff was happening. And when they got there, there was people like, because the Chinese migrants, the reason why they were actually employed on the gold mines is because they were willing to work longer hours, they were willing to work for less money, and just all those kind of things. And that's when, like, Europeans at the time, they were just like, no, we can't have this. They're taking our jobs.
True.
So yeah, that's a little bit of that's just a little bit of information on when the first sort of migration of Asians started coming into Australia. But now, if you go to any sort of major city, you kind of see that there are Asians everywhere.
Yeah, well, actually, we just had the census last year, right?
Oh yeah.
And as successful as that was, it did get some pretty interesting information. This is one of the few things I did look up. And the fact is that the Asian population in Australia is just growing. It's crazy. There's so many like of different cultures now.
Yeah.
And I think there are now more Asian-born Australians than there are Asians. Sorry, there are now more Australians who were born in Asia than there are Australians who were born in Europe.
Yeah, I could kind of see that.
Yeah, so I think it's just a trend that's just going to keep kind of going.
If I may interrupt you for a second, I do have some statistics here. Again, from Wikipedia, so I don't know how reliable that is, but Chinese Australians make up 5.6 of the 5.6% of the total population of Australians currently living in Australia. These are stats from 2016. So
yeah, that would probably be from the census thing as well. Then
wasn't census 2017?
No, census 2016.
Oh really?
Yeah, it's been nearly 2 years since that.
Anyways, so Indians make up 2.8% of Australians living in Australia currently. Those are the only two stats that I could be bothered looking at because I'm not good at reading. But, I
don't think it's that you're not good at reading. I think it's just you don't like to read for too long.
I have a short attention span, you know me.
Yeah, that's why we're already like talking, segueing and everything. Eggnog.
Yeah, true. Eggnog's delicious. So 30% of all Asians in Australia go to uni. Now, I feel like this is going to change very quickly. Because
that's still got that generational gap too,
exactly.
Right? Yeah, I was thinking about that as well.
This is including the first coming of the first major all the migrations. So maybe our parents' sort of generation or whatever. My dad's a chef. He didn't even finish year 12. I don't think. Neither did my mum. Neither of them finished a year 12 equivalent. But then you look at people in our age bracket, like the Asians in our age bracket, and you kind of see, shit, if they're not going to university, that it's a very small percentage of Asians our age that aren't going to university because of that whole parent I came here so you could be a lawyer or be a doctor or be an engineer, something like that.
Basically have that university degree.
Yeah, for no fucking reason at all. I've graduated uni, I have my degree, and I'm not even using it. I only went to uni because my parents kind of forced me, and in a way, they guilt-tripped me into going to uni.
Cool.
I was like, Mom, Dad, I'm 15 now, I could make my own decisions, I'm going to drop out of school and become a firefighter. And they're like, great, you can move out then. You can live in the doghouse. So they gave me this whole speech about we moved all the way to this country so that you and your brother could have a good education, our hopes and dreams were for you to go to university. And so I was like, well, fuck, I guess I have to go to university now. So I went to university, did my 4 years, came out with my degree, which I don't even use, and a $40,000 debt. So...
And you're still living with that debt.
And I'll still be living with that debt for a long, long time.
Yeah. Well, mine's slightly different because, I don't know, my parents never really pushed me in that sort of way. Yeah. I think I kind of pushed myself more. But that was also probably due to my upbringing. I mean, I always had a bit of an academic competition sort of thing against other people. I wanted to be in that, that top smartest group or whatnot.
Yeah.
So it was kind of natural for me that I would be going to uni. But there was kind of a little thing where we do gap years. Everyone does gap years, right? Well, every place does gap years.
Yeah.
Basically, straight after year 12, you take a year off before you go to uni.
We didn't do that.
No, I'm just saying people do that. People know what that is, right?
Yeah.
That's not just a Canberra or Australia thing or whatever.
No.
Yeah, but basically, I was thinking of doing it. And before I could even kind of finish processing that thought, my mum was like, "You're not doing a gap year, right? You're going straight to uni, aren't you?" And I was like, yeah, well, yeah, I guess I am.
Totally what I'm doing, Mum.
I've never for a second would I think otherwise.
Yeah. Oh, what a stupid idea.
Yeah, I totally.
But in your head, you're like, "Come on, man! I
just finished 12 years of this crap. I
13, including kindergarten.
I guess so. Kindergarten does count.
Hard work.
True.
Finger painting and shit.
Napping. There's still some naps in some kindergartens.
What?
Yeah, I don't think I napped in kindergarten actually. Yeah, I definitely did. Whether or not we were meant to nap is a different sort of a question.
Whereas sort of when I was in the younger years, I had too much energy. When the bell rings to go back to the classroom after lunch, I'm still in a fucking tree. Whereas later on, when I came towards the end of my middle school education, I was like sleeping in class, or I'd be leaving school early because I needed to go home and sleep.
Because you were spending too much time outside of school doing all that energy expending.
Yeah, right? So it's like a big reverse in a way from the norm in those, you know, those where you do this with your fingers.
The quotation marks.
Yeah, quotation, air quotation.
Yeah. Is that a bird or a possum?
Where?
I don't know. I just heard like a clanking noise.
No, that's a
outside.
bird.
No, not that one. Obviously.
No, that's a.
That would not make that noise. That's tiny.
It did because the verandas. Dude,
sorry. Distracted.
And then just my final fun fact, which I thought was pretty funny: 20% of all doctors in Australia. This is like educated here as a doctor, not a PhD. Well, it could be a PhD. I didn't look into it, or an MD. 20% of all doctors in Australia are Asian, which is like so fitting.
Well, is that due to, you know, the cultural expectation of the parents, or because it really was 20% of, you know, that population's calling, or whatever it is?
Well, this actually reminds me of a funny story. Like my mum, when I was growing up, she'd always say to me like, "Oh, Clement, you need to be a doctor. You need to be a lawyer. You need to be an engineer." And I assume and from what I've heard as well, like a lot of people heard the same kind of thing growing up. And I was like, "Mum, why do you want me to be a doctor?" And she said she was saying like, "Oh, because when I get old, I need someone who can give me free medicine." I was like, "Wow, come on!" Not because it's like a highly profession, or because, you know, you can.
What's in it for me?
Yeah, exactly.
Classic.
So that made me not want to be a doctor. Not because I don't like my mum. I love my mum. But just because I don't want to do it for that reason.
Yeah, if you're going to do something that you're going to literally be doing for almost the rest of your life, You're going to want to have some sort of passion for it.
Yeah, and that's why when I went to uni, I took a design degree. And my parents at first were like, "What the fuck is design?" Like, they were just like, "How are you going to make money? Are you going to be living under my roof for the rest of your life with your kids, with my grandkids?" I was like, "No, Mum. I'm going to be a designer. I'm going to design some groundbreaking shit, and I'm going to make it in this world." And, you know, I'm 3 years out of uni now. I don't use my design degree. I'll use it a little bit, but...
As like more of a freelance thing here and there.
But it's kind of like... I took it in a way where it's like that degree is sort of... I'm passionate about it, and, you know, I don't know what I'm going to say.
What do you mean? As in, like, you want to keep using it, or...
Like, use it, but not in like a I'm using it for money kind of way, just in like sort of like as an interest.
Right. Yeah. Well, my dad, he's working one thing. That one thing is where he makes the main income. But, you know, he's got a passion for photography, for example, and he still makes a bit of money out of that as a hobby.
Yeah.
Obviously taking photos, selling them off.
Yeah.
It's good. And like, he still keeps that sort of passion around, despite the fact that it's not going to be main source of income. You know, I think it's important to have those sort of things.
Definitely.
I think there's another kind of difference. Maybe it's because my dad was that 1.5 generation that I talked about. So he had a lot of the Western upbringing, but they always encouraged me to, you know, you don't have to be that doctor or the lawyer or the smartest guy in the room. Just do what, you know, do you. But make sure that once you're set to it, you go for it. Otherwise... you're never going to actually get anywhere with it, despite that passion.
Well, that brings me to a follow-up question. Like, because we both have arts degrees. Is yours arts?
Technically, yeah. Social science, so yeah, pretty much.
Social science, and I've got design. Obviously, not exactly what you would immediately assume from an Asian parent does not really say, "Hey, you should get an arts degree." Actually, I don't think any parent says that.
No.
Anyways, how did your parents feel? And the reason why I'm asking you is because of that one, like first generation and that 1.5 that we mentioned. How did your parents feel about you wanting to pursue something that's not traditionally, you know, like an Asian thing?
Again, I think, okay, so pulling on the Asian stereotype for a second, my mum was a nurse in the Philippines.
Yep.
Like that is super stereotypical of Filipinos.
Yep.
Not just women, men too.
Yep.
It's nurses. But anyway, my mum, she went through that sort of experience. going to the hospitals because it's in the Philippines. She'd have to get up like 4 in the morning.
Wait, what do you mean by because it's the Philippines?
Because of the Philippines, like traffic is ridiculous,
okay.
and you gotta go through so many different things. If it's traffic, if it's raining season, you gotta go through floods to get to work. It's pretty ridiculous. And then you got long hours. You see things, right? I mean, it's a hospital. Yeah. You're gonna see things.
Yeah.
She didn't really like that. Like, I don't think she actually really wanted that for me and my brother.
Yeah.
So she was pretty cool with me wanting to do, other things, other career paths.
Yeah.
At the same time, around the time I was looking into uni, she'd already been living here for about 20 years.
Yeah.
So she's already got a little bit of the Western culture sort of mindset. Right. And my dad, he's been, as I mentioned in a previous podcast, he's been here since he was a wee little lad, and he actually wanted to do architecture in university. So he had that sort of design and artistic mindset already. So I think because of their passions and their history, it made them a lot more relaxed and encouraged my brother and I to take on career paths that weren't necessarily the traditional high-paying roles, but rather something that we could enjoy and potentially make more out of it.
Something they could be the best at.
Exactly.
Because, like, if you were to, like, say, become an accountant, you can't really become the best accountant.
I couldn't. There are so many people.
Well, not specifically you. Just I don't think there's such thing as a best accountant.
I think there is. There's a movie about it. Ben Affleck. He was an accountant.
That's not a movie about accounting, Nathan. That's.
He was still really good at it.
Talking about. There are scenes where he's sitting there rubbing a metal bar against his shin.
He's turning. You know that. To be the best accountant / killer.
No, that's not how it works, Nathan.
I watched the movie.
Yeah, so did I. We didn't watch it together, did we?
No, we didn't. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I watched it on a plane or something like that.
But anyways, long story short, that movie is not about accounting. And if you thought it was about accounting, you're dead wrong.
Yeah, you're probably right, though. I mean, okay, we went off topic again. We were talking about... What were we talking about?
I'm not sure, but here I have a list of notable Australian Asians if you're interested in that.
Actually, no, that'd be a good segue into what we want to talk about next. So go ahead, go.
Sure. So here I have a list of notable Australian Asians, and they might not be as notable to you than us, but that's just how it is. These are the people I know and who I put on my phone.
Is Ando on this list?
Number 1, Ando, comedian, Vietnamese background. Number 2, Nick Kyrgios. He's actually half Malaysian.
Oh, I did not know that.
Neither did I. Thank God for the internet. Jessica Malboy. She won Australian Idol a couple of years back, and she did a song with Ludacris.
It was a little more than a couple of years back.
Yeah. Anyway,
when was the last time Australian Idol was even on TV?
I don't know. I think it got cancelled ages ago, which makes sense because I remember the last time I watched it was season 12.
There was a 12th season. Last time I watched it was when Guy Sebastian won.
That was the first one.
That was the first one.
Next on my list, Guy Sebastian. Wait, we need to go back. Jessica Malboy. She's half Indonesian. Fun fact. She had one really good song. It was the one with Ludacris, I think. Do you remember that?
Is that a recent one or a pretty old one?
No,
I guess it's Ludacris, so it wouldn't be that recent.
I think. Hey, what are you saying about Ludacris? I love Ludacris.
Ludacris is great, but he's not exactly making much music these days.
He's acting now.
Yeah.
He's one of the Furious 7.
He is.
Spoiler alert.
It is.
If you haven't seen it.
If you haven't seen the second movie. In the Fast and Furious.
So, next on the list is Guy Sebastian. He's a Malaysian. There's a lot of Malaysians on this, huh? Seems a bit biased.
Yeah,
from Clement the...
I feel like Clement the Malaysian.
by Clement the Malaysian. Next is Jeff from the Wiggles. He's Chinese. Or half Chinese. But he doesn't sound Chinese at all. He sounds fully Aussie.
That dude is most definitely a second generation. At least.
Oh, yeah, at least. Then you've got James Wan. He's Malaysian.
Is James Wan Australian?
Australian Malaysian.
I did not know he was Australian.
Well, Malaysian Australian, however that works.
That's pretty cool.
But if you don't know who he is, he directed the Saw movies, the Conjuring movies, Furious 7,
the upcoming Aquaman movie.
Super excited about that.
Oh, definitely.
And the last on my list is Natalie Tran, a YouTuber she does community channel. She's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, Community Channel. Yeah.
Have you watched that?
I used to watch that like ages back.
Oh,
She was pretty funny.
I don't know. The way she makes observations and stuff. It's hilarious. Me and one of our friends, we used to just binge watch her on YouTube.
Yeah, she's a good material. My Chonny is another YouTuber. If you wanted to go for Australians, you know, my Chonny. Yeah, he's a bit of a biggie.
Does he make
on the YouTube channel?
Does he make YouTube anymore?
I think I don't know. I think he's actually on that SBS Pop Asia show.
Oh, yeah,
he does podcasts.
From
actually,
back in the day.
yeah, but he does like podcasts. Sort of now.
Maybe we should get in contact with him.
I think we got a little way to go, but I think we can get there.
Hey man, aim big.
Yeah.
Anyways, that concludes my list of notable Asian Australians.
And that actually segues quite well into something that I was reading about. Now, when we were doing this whole Asian Australian podcast idea, we were kind of thinking, I wonder if we've got any other ones. Kind of looked it up and realized not many people identify as Asian Australian in the first place, right? Not like Asian American. And this kind of kept me going on a bit of a roll, just going through all this sort of things. And one big sort of, I guess, issue that Asian Americans have is their lack of identity or famous faces sort of thing happening in Hollywood or in music, etc. over there in America. And they feel that, they don't get enough exposure, they don't get enough chances to be seen as anything more than the token Asian guy. I just wanted to know, what do you think about that, but for Asian Australia in terms of that in our society?
Okay, well, think about it like this. If I didn't put those people on a list, would you have, like, if I said Asian Australian, who would be the first person you would have thought of?
I honestly don't know.
Exactly.
Ando.
And then now, think about the first 3 Asian Americans that pop into your head.
There's that guy from Harold and Kumar.
Okay, John Cho.
Yeah, thank you. I can't remember names. Aziz
Ansari.
Yeah, the comedian.
Yeah,
the Indian comedian guy.
Yeah.
And who's the guy from Community? And Hangover.
Ken Jeong.
Ken Jeong. Yeah. I came up with 3.
You didn't know any of their names though. That's true. That was my point.
That's true.
Like the first Asian American I thought of was Lucy Liu.
Oh yeah.
Because I like Kill Bill and Quentin Tarantino.
For some reason I thought Charlie's Angels, but okay. And Futurama. She was kind of prominent in Futurama for a little bit.
True. Yeah. Oh yeah. She was. They made her body clone, right?
Yeah, that's it. And then like her head was kind of like a recurring character or something for a little while.
That's a weird episode. I wasn't into that one.
As in like that one in general, or just Futurama?
No, I love Futurama. That episode was just kind of weird for me.
It was a little strange. No, but what I mean is this, like, do Asian Americans, they have a sort of a big issue with that. Do you think that's an issue here in Australia? Not having enough celebrities, not having enough of a famous exposure in Australian society? Do you think like Asian Australian culture is very much, caring about that?
I honestly, until we started like coming up with the concept for this podcast, I never even thought about it. I think it's just because it's not like you see an Asian on TV and you're like, oh my god, an Asian, or like, oh my god, a white guy, oh my god, an Aboriginal. It's kind of just like, there's someone on TV.
Yeah.
It's not really. Yeah, I never really thought about it growing up, but now that I do, I don't remember seeing Asians on TV. But
does it ever, irk you? Or is it something you're actually bothered by, like they seem to be in America? Or is it kind of just that's just kind of how it is, I suppose.
Does it bother me? Not really.
Yeah, because it doesn't bother me that much either. And I think, I can only speak for us and a couple of other people that I've spoken to.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't seem to be an issue for us, for example. There's a very different sort of culture, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. Yeah. We've got a very different culture to Asian Americans than they do to us here in Australia.
I guess being in film, Asians have always been portrayed a certain way. They've never been like, like the muscly, heroic, like the hero of a movie. They've just kind of been the side character.
Oh my gosh, we forgot Jackie Chan.
He's not Asian American. He's Chinese.
True, but he's still like American celebrity sort of thing in a sense. He gets that exposure because once you started talking about they're never the heroes. I just thought of Jackie Chan. He's a hero in a lot of things. That's what I was
thinking. Like, that's what I was like building up to. So before, and Bruce Lee is like an idol to me. Like the way I heard this in a documentary, but he put balls on Asian men, and that seriously. Seriously, like I agree with that statement a lot because seeing Asians in cinema before that, they were always that I've seen a couple where they've been portrayed by like white people and like just wearing those traditional Chinese outfits.
I've seen it like the westerns and everything. Like
old
school westerns.
Exactly. And then Bruce Lee comes along and just like starts kicking the shit out of people and like screaming like "Wow!" and shit like that. Like. He really changed how Asians were portrayed in cinema, and he really laid the groundwork for a lot of new sort of like actors, like Asian actors into Hollywood. Jet Li, Jackie Chan, two prime examples, and the only two that I can think of off the top of my head.
And they all kind of like, I guess Bruce Lee also created. Well, he did create that sort of balls for Asian men.
Yep.
He then created a new sort of stereotype now, right? It's just all these Asians are good at kung fu. They're the martial artists essentially. That's kind of what happened after Bruce Lee. I'm not saying it's a bad change. I'm just saying we're kind of going in a similar. Yeah, it's definitely a step up, but it's still kind of in the same direction. Like there was still that sort of stereotype of who Asians are. They're the token smart guy or token, martial artist.
I mean, of all stereotypes to have, like, if you think of stereotypes of each major ethnic group, like, I think that's definitely one of the better ones.
In terms of the movies, I think we get a slightly better rap these days.
Yeah, I love seeing the, well, no, because Asians still have, like, still broken down into demographics in a way. Like, you always got, like, the nerdy, computer IT kind of Asian.
True.
And then you got the Kung Fu Asian. Then you got the gangster Asian. I don't know if you've seen any Stephen Chow movies.
A couple, but
Kung Fu Hustle, Shaolin Soccer, that kind of stuff.
Kung Fu Hustle, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got that kind of Asian, the gangster, bloody wearing a tuxedo with the collar open and stuff. Like, there's still a couple out there, but it's still not. I don't know. It does. Honestly, it doesn't bother me too much.
Yeah, and that's what I think is very different about Asian Australian culture. It's even though we still may identify as our particular race. You identify as Clement the Malaysian. I see myself as a Filipino.
Clement the Malaysian is a race now, is it?
Well, no, I'm saying that your title puts the fact that you've got a race in there.
Okay,
You're Malaysian. You're identifying as Malaysian. People identify as of Chinese heritage, me of Filipino heritage.
Yeah.
But I think we very much associate ourselves as Australian.
Yep.
And that's something very interesting that I see, that we don't put a label on Asian Australian. It's just Australian.
Well, we've kind of done this with this podcast.
Yeah, well, we're just trying to go into a more specific niche.
Yeah.
And like I said, when we were creating this, we realized, hang on, no one really even uses this term.
Yeah.
And so it's provoked this sort of conversation as to
so.
why don't we?
Yeah.
So I always find that very interesting. Just as I dug deeper into it, how I always thought, there's probably very similar to Asian Americans or Asians living in European countries like England.
That's right.
All those bits and pieces, but turns out there's still a subculture within our culture.
Exactly. Do you feel like numbers affects the like how important it is to us?
As in like population?
Population wise, right?
Possibly. I don't know. Like, I guess because Australia has such a small population compared to, say, America.
Yep.
And we have a lot, and we live around Asian countries.
Yeah.
Where I think we're naturally going to have a larger Asian population to Americans.
But it's also the different kinds of Asians as well. Like, I think the Asians that migrate to the US, is very, very different to the Asians that migrate here to Australia. For example, China's, it's not, I wouldn't say it's exactly close to Australia, but it's it's on the way. It's on the way in a way, and that's why you get a lot of Chinese here. Majority of the Asian people who migrate here or come here as international students to study are Chinese. Like
True.
I have housemates and they're Chinese international students, and they were saying, because they have to go through this like English course before they actually start university, and they were telling me about 80 to 90% of the students in that entire English course is Chinese, and you get like even if it's not Chinese, you still get mostly Asian. So you've got like what are some, like Korean, Vietnamese, yeah. And then you've got like a couple like Indians here and there, and like Middle East.
You probably wouldn't get a lot of Filipinos though, I imagine, because English is basically a first language for many of them.
Right.
So that's also what I was actually going to say before I completely interrupted you. I'm not even sorry about that. Is that I feel like a lot of the Filipino Americans are actually quite similar to those Filipinos living in Australia as well. Yep. Maybe because we've already got a very similar sort of culture in the Philippines.
Right.
I've always been like told that I've got a very American accent.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, and I've been to America once, and that was in 2006.
Yeah.
And it was for less than a month. So I've got zero really exposure to that sort of thing. But, I think it's just the Filipino community in both here in Australia, in the Philippines, in America, they've got very similar traits. So for me, I've always kind of, maybe that's also a reason why I've never really felt that there was a difference up until I actually looked into it.
Right. Just a fun fact. For the first 2 months of that I knew you, I thought I was really confused by your accent. Just talking to you was just confusing, because it's like you got some American words here, but then you got some Australian slang here, but then your skin is Filipino skin. I'm like, what is going on with this guy?
We had a teacher back in year 8, I believe. He was American, and he was doing the roll call. So it was like, saying names: Andrew, Michaela, Nathan. Yep, here. And he stopped, and he's like, "Are you mocking me?" And he got really angry, and everyone just went silent. And then my friend Andrew was just like, "That's how he speaks." And you just went really red because he just realized he just made a fool of himself.
What an ass. So what if he's mocking you? Like, think about it. If you're in that position, you're like mid-30s teacher, and a kid's mocking you, do you really have to address that?
Apparently he was not the bigger man, despite being the bigger man.
Oh, the bigger man. Yep. He was fat.
Yeah, a little bit. Anyway.
I feel like with that whole Filipino thing, Malaysians are very similar in a way. Malaysians kind of, in terms of language, they're sort of jack of all trades. I think growing up, my mum was telling me she learned 4 languages just growing up. 2 in school, she spoke a different one at home, and then I don't know, maybe she picked up another one.
Crazy.
But she's not the best at any language. She just knows a few languages, and English now, especially, it's one of the required
it's the de
subjects.
facto language of the world, essentially.
Right. And so Malaysians come over here, and they really have no problem communicating, or obviously they take time to go accustomed to the culture, but like they have no problems in communicating.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, it's pretty cool, I think.
And I think culture might be something we want to explore in our next podcast, hey? That would be a cool kind of idea, just to kind of see how my culture reacts to this world to this kind of country compared to how yours might, and how our friends might see things a bit differently. That'd be something cool to talk about. But until then, we've actually run out of time. We're a little over. So yeah, crazy, right?
Oh,
I did not think we were going to get this far into it.
Yeah,
But
okay.
Look, we're still new. We're still trying to grow our sort of experience in the podcast
Trying
world.
to get our formula right.
Yeah, trying to get it. So we're still learning. So if you have any sort of suggestions or questions or anything to kind of
Feedback.
Feedback.
Feedback's really important to us. We want to know if we're good, if we're bad, if we should talk about certain things.
Yeah, what we need to pick up on.
Right.
Like I said, we're new to it. We're open to all sorts of suggestions, and you can give us those on our email or via Twitter. Our email is firstimpressions.pod@gmail.com, and our Twitter, which is now actually active. We didn't have one as of the first podcast.
As of the last one, that's right.
Yeah, you can find our Twitter at podcast_FI. Now, if you are listening to us on YouTube or SoundCloud or any other sort of mainstream media that we've decided to put this on, you can find all our upcoming episodes and our main episodes will be on firstimpressionspod.podbean.com. So until the next one, thanks for listening, guys.
See ya.